What's up guys, back to another episode of Manji TV. We got the M2 race car on the lift. I'm your host Rathlers, and we got some super dope H&R Sway bars for the M2. We are gonna be installing these things right now. The coolest part is they're adjustable and they're thick, super thick. Let's just compare these things by putting them on top of each other. Visually, you can see they're way thicker. And they're quite heavier. They definitely are heavier. We're gonna be adding some weight with those, but I think it's gonna be worth it. This sway bar does come with proprietary bushings for the thicker sway bar. They're more of a one-piece design where the factory bushing is a two-piece design. So that is a really nice upgrade. I think it's gonna hold together a lot better being a one-piece design with one slit. So we've gone ahead and installed the brackets on that. We're gonna go ahead and install it in the car. It's a very easy install. Two little nipples on each side with 13mm nuts and 16mm nuts to your Endlinks here. I have the SPL Endlinks, obviously. If you've seen the previous videos, we're gonna be going ahead and installing the sway bar right now. The rear sway bar does not have adjustability. It is much thicker. When we get the rear sway bar out, we'll show you the difference. We actually need to drop the rear subframe for that. So I'm gonna have to move all these cars and get to work on that. Nonetheless, I have just enough room to install the front one. So we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick since I was too eager to wait and just went ahead and pulled the old sway bar off. You can see, obviously, they're blue in color. They are very similar in construction. The shape is basically the same, but they're way thicker. So excited to see how these feel. We don't know which setting we're gonna run. We're probably gonna run the outer setting as it has more leverage, but I'm also gonna check the geometry on everything and see which setting kind of looks smoother and keeps everything more 90 degrees. So, you want to have everything perpendicular to the strut there, so I want to make sure that everything is in the right place. Wow, this muffler was quite the pain in the ass to get off, because it is modified to fit the Akrapovic center pipe. The way these two pipes come together at an angle, when you're pulling it off, they basically have to kind of like separate this way, and it makes it such a pain in the butt. But we got it, and now we're working in on removing the subframe. So to do that, we're just gonna try and leave as much intact as possible. I believe there's gonna be enough room and slack in the brake lines as well as the e-brake cables to just go ahead and drop the subframe a little bit and leave it hanging from the coilover. So the coilovers are basically gonna hold the arms up and kind of allow the center section to drop down and slacken. We'll also put a pull stand under the diff just to be sure that it doesn't drop or disturb anything. So we'll be doing that. I have unclipped the lines here for the ABS and whatnot on both sides, just to allow for a little bit more slack there. I have also done the same with the e-brake cables, removed them out of their hook. We obviously have the mid pipe hanging down. I've kind of pulled the heat shield down just a little bit to give a little room for the drive shaft to come down. And we're just gonna lower the 4 bolts, take the 4 bolts out of the subframe out, and hopefully just be able to lower it enough to get the sway bar out. So before you do that, you will have to remove your braces that kind of go in this section here. Just a quick look at them on the ground. So we've gone ahead and removed both of these, which are just held in with some 16mm bolts, 2 nuts, and some Allen head screws. So there's 8 screws, 4 bolts, and 2 nuts. We've gone ahead and removed all that. Morgan's gone ahead and started cracking the subframe bolts loose. So we'll go ahead and take those out gently and lower this subframe down to see how much room we have to get the sway bar out. And when we do that, we will also be replacing the Endlinks here for the SPL units. So we'll be putting on the SPL Endlinks and the H&R rear sway bar. So let's not waste any more time. Just go ahead and get the subframe down and get it out. All right guys, so we actually got the sway bar out finally. It was kind of a pain in the butt. Here's a quick look at the two side by side. Just taking a look at it, you can see how much thicker this new bar is. The blue H&R is quite a bit thicker, and it's also quite a bit heavier too, just due to its overall thickness. But other than it being blue and thicker, its shape is identical. And all we have done is just lower the subframe here, let it hang from the coilovers. You will probably need a second hand just to kind of jiggle the subframe back and forth. As you can see here, everything kind of moves back and forth and up and down a little bit. So it will come through here. It is quite a tight fit. You can see the mounts here where the bolts will go. It is quite a tight fit, but it is doable. So we're gonna go ahead and give this thing a quick wipe down since there's some grease from the axles starting to spray everywhere. So we're gonna give it a quick wipe down, and then we will be putting the new sway bar in and showing you that. But just to give you a better idea of how everything looks, you can see here the brake lines aren't stressed at all. The brake cables aren't stressed either, the e-brake cables. Everything is very nice and kind of happy in this state. So no issues here. Could we have left this ground? Definitely not. Make sure to get this ground here going to the chassis there. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get this new sway bar in and see how she feels. Super excited to see how this improves the car, as well as these SPL Endlinks. So we have some brand new rear Endlinks from SPL for the F80, F82, and F87 chassis. We're gonna go ahead and get those bad boys on there as well. So yeah, stop talking about it and just get it done. You can see Morgan in here wiping things down, getting all that grease, and go ahead and throw her back together. It's a good time too to look at your hardware, double check your torques, make sure everything is good and tight, which in our case it is. We will be replacing the subframe bolts as well. But yeah, that's it for this sway bar install job basically. The sway bar does come supplied with some new bushings, as the bar is thicker and needs those thicker bushings to make everything work, so just keep that in mind. So we've got the sway bar in. A couple quick tips. Your ABS cable will go behind it. It does need to sneak underneath your ABS cable and underneath this upper control arm. As you can see here, it runs just under the control arm. On our other side, you've got to be careful of the brake wear sensor. So the brake wear sensor goes on this side of it. You got to sneak it through there. Make sure to do that. As well as, once again, underneath the upper arm and under our ABS cable here. So be sure to get that right. Like I said, you will need some help. You can see Morgan's fitting the bolts to the sway bar. We're gonna honestly have to bring this up for it to just be in the right angle. It'll look a little funky in here with the subframe down, as all the angles are just incorrect. So we're gonna bring this subframe up to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, that's a quick look at how it's done, guys. Something to note here, with my full coilover conversion, the clearance was already super tight. And so I have pre-check clearance, and it looks like it's gonna be super tight. I don't know if you guys can tell, but that SPL is just slightly longer. And so what I've done is just trimmed off like the first 2 or 3 threads to get better clearance. I'm gonna go ahead and bevel this tip, grind and bevel this tip so that it's perfect and looks like it was never touched. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same to this one. As you can see here already, how much shorter we've made it. So about maybe a 1/4 inch at most, about 3/16. So we're gonna go ahead and do the same to this one here, and then I'll show you the final product. All right guys, here you can see we've beveled the tips just slightly. Also flushed them so there's no rough edges anywhere. Hopefully you guys can see that. And if I put them up side by side, they're literally like identical height. So very good there. It's kind of the final look. Now we should have no issues with these just threading right on, which we don't. So we'll go ahead and get these installed in the car now. And just to get a better look here, the section that we cut off, there it is. Not very much, just about 3 threads at most. All right guys, here's a quick look at everything installed. So actually turns out that there probably would have been enough clearance to leave that tip, but it was looking really close, and so I'd rather not have any issues with it. So we trimmed it. As you can see here, just the perfect length for the nut to still be biting completely on the threads, and the lock washer, the nylon lock, to be biting. You can see here we have everything installed into the knuckle. You want to be very careful to make sure that this is all aligned, as you can easily strip it when you're tightening it. So just make sure to thread those in by hand. Get them in pretty good before you start tightening it down. The torque on these is 44 foot-pounds on both of these, 42 or 44 foot-pounds, and the torque for the mounts up here, for the actual sway bar mounts, are 28 Newton meters. So 28 Newton meters for the sway bar mounts to the subframe, and 44 foot-pounds to the actual knuckle and sway bar here. So we've gone ahead and torqued those, and everything's looking good. We are going to retorque the subframe and all of these brackets, but I gotta go pick up some new bolts because these are technically one-time use, and I've already reused them once, so we're gonna go ahead and put some new ones in the car. I'm just finishing up the install of the rear subframe, but putting the new updated subframe bolts in, and just wanted to give you guys a quick peek at these. So the new one's got this fancy super thick washer with like these slits in it, which may be to allow the water to get out of these bolts, because for whatever reason, when you're washing them, sometimes water ends up in the frame rails and ends up corroding these bolts, as well as the distribution through this washer is probably a lot better. So very interesting.
If you like this video, be sure to check out the next one, and if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe and like the video. It helps a lot. Thanks, and see you in the next one.